This is Hidden Killers Week in Review.
A look back at the most prolific stories of the week.
This is Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. Here now, Tony Brueski.
Brian Kohberger's not liking prison. I know, big shocker there. We're all feeling bad. We're all, oh no, oh heavens no. Life is not going good in prison for Brian Kohberger. There's been a lot of complaints from him, and we're going to go through some of those complaints, some of those lovely letters that he's written. He doesn't like the fact that some prisoners are flooding their cells and it's raining in his. He doesn't like being tormented all the time. He doesn't like the lunch either. He's not getting a balanced meal, so he's making folks aware of that. Yeah, I think that's kind of the gist. There's three complaint letters, but Robin, let's start with the big juicy one, the one that he doesn't like the most. It's a complaint that he filed. Let's pull it up here on the screen. Okay, August 3rd, he submitted a concern stating he has been subject to threats and harassment, recently escalating to overt sexual violent threats in prison. Wow, you don't ever see that happen. The lieutenant received the concern on August 4th. He conducted an interview with Kohberger in the J Block and stated that an inmate, which he's naming Peru, which I'm going to guess Peru's canteen is getting filled by a lot of people right now. Peru said to him, "I'll BF you." And that's not for best friend, by the way. And then there's also, and he doesn't know if this is from Peru, but it might be from some of his friends. The only ass we'll be eating is Kohberger's. And these are the things that stood out to Brian, which I found kind of interesting, because I imagine there's a lot more that's been shouted, but those are the two that he got noted in the complaint. What's your reaction to that?
I feel so bad, but every time his name comes up in prison, I just start laughing. It's pretty bad. My first impression is, wow, good. And it's also the style of writing. He seems to be doing the best he can to try to influence people by trying to be articulate, trying to be manual-like. So again, he's shown his social ineptitude of what he's doing, and he's in misery. Misery's not going to end, and he's got a long time of continuing to be miserable.
Do you think, I mean, I'm a little bit surprised that we have three complaint letters from him, a week and a half or 2 weeks in, or however long he's been there. It's not that long. I mean, and these were filed, we're just seeing them now. They were filed at the beginning of the month. So that was very early into his stay here at the Best Western. I was thinking he might have a little bit of expectation that this is what prison's going to be like, because the bar seems to be really low on what he's complaining about. I mean, that could influence somebody. But here's another one. Here's another one that he's complaining about. I have, and we'll talk about his writing in a moment, but I'll just try and get through it here. I have on several occasions not received all items of food on my tray. I addressed...
Tony, can I stop you for 1 second?
Yeah.
I got to get the door, okay?
Sure.
And we can restart in 1 second.
Yep. Okay? Let me... I'll go through this here, and it's really fascinating to dig into what exactly Kohberger is trying to communicate and why. That's the strange thing about all of this, and the way that he's communicating it as well. The style of writing, the formality of the writing, and we'll get into all of that in a second. But continuing with the letter, the formalness is kind of interesting. All items on my food tray, I addressed this during service and have yet to receive any replacements. So basically, they're out of mush over here, and he wants more mush, or he wants a replacement mush. It's just, they're out of it. So he wants them to follow the policy, essentially. In fact, the kitchen is not even called, he says, when he says, I didn't get my mush. Nobody goes back. Oh, Kohberger needs he wants the one that we didn't have. The policy book confirms, so he's studying the policy book, confirms, this is his words, items missing, which are out, basically, it's hard to read his writing, at the time of service will be replaced with another item, with or without exception. So then it says, I have tried to solve this problem informally by addressing the issue with the state at the time of meal service. And then I suggest the following solution. I wish for the items to be called for and items replaced when this happens. I don't know. The nutrition standard is not being upheld unless I receive my full tray. And then his signature, which looks like that of a third grader. Like there was like signature day in third grade, and he stuck with that one.
He's really got a inflated impression of who he is and who he thinks he is.
Is that what this is? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think it's multiple things here. One, his complete social unawareness of the situation.
Yeah.
And I think he's being exactly who he is. He's very formal, very proper, and he thinks by citing rules and regulations, because he's a scholarly man, I think he's trying to come across as scholarly and learned, and he's going to get what he wants. But he so does not understand that he's a convicted murderer of killing 4 people, and he's serving 4 consecutive life sentences. He just doesn't get that, I don't think. And he thought, remember, we talked about why, one of the reasons why we think he took that plea deal is because I'm going to go have a fine life because I can study, I can be researched, I can still be, the pet project of Professor Ramsland because now she'll study me. I mean, so I think his bubble is slowly being, I think fast now, being burst on exactly how miserable his life's going to be. And the other thing too is his stovepiping is so incredible to me sometimes about how he doesn't think outside here, and his lack of research. So think about this, Tony. I've never been in prison. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of great agents that have done tons of interviews inside prisons, and I watch a lot of videos on life, especially since Kohberger went in there. I've watched a lot and learned a lot about inside this prison system. One from Brian Enton on News Nation, but also a lot of other people. And the fact that he doesn't understand, I know more about what he can and can't do in prison than he does.
Yeah,
it just shows you his lack of curiosity outside that stovepipe. Because this then goes also to, I keep refuting everyone, and I love standing on this one, of people saying how intelligent he is. Mm-hmm. No, he's not. He's a complete moron. I love being on there with the conclaves where they just say he's not smart.
Yeah.
What true intelligence is not IQ. It's EQ. It's that emotional intelligence. And the 5 facets of emotional intelligence are awareness of self, awareness of others, motivation, problem solving, and emotional regulation. All those things he scores a pure 0 on, except the motivation. So he appears as IQ high because he fixates on stuff in a small little stovepipe. That's why he was caught. Why he sucks. And so his prison sentence so far is doing exactly the same thing. He's fixating on this, without understanding the larger picture of what's going on around him. And it's not going to end. And they're going to keep tormenting him.
It's like a magnifying glass on a hot summer day, and you're frying ants on your sidewalk as a child. Kohberger only thinks through that little piece of the prism that fries the ants, where it's just the hot, burning sensation. Where the rest of us, if we're going through life with a magnifying glass out in front of us, okay, what's going on around here? We're aware of what the bigger picture is that we're focusing on. We're aware of our surroundings beyond the magnifying glass. Kohberger's only focusing on the heat. That little piece of heat that's frying shit is all he is seeing. And anything beyond it, he seems very surprised by. Genuinely surprised by.
100%. And it's also why, he's categorized as a mass murderer, obviously, but not a serial killer. I think he had designs, like you and I have said, of being, he would have tried to evolve. It's another better way to put it. I think he would have tried to evolve into a serial killer because he got a large rush out of it. But every other serial killer out there had a social game that he didn't have. It's why they weren't caught. And so he has zero social game. Inevitably, he was caught. That's why he's down as a horrendous mass murderer.
Yeah.
Thankfully, four lost their lives, but it could have been worse had he had a social game, much like a BTK or Dahmer or anyone else, really.
And that's the thing with him. There is nothing, I mean, other than he's just a combination of what he's taken up from all these other people and just certainly only looked at their hot spots, basically. What did they do here? I want to emulate that. Other than that, yeah, there is nothing there really to learn. There was character in some of these other folks, as horrible of characters as they were. There was character. He's just like this empty shell where it's like a movie, like a movie building on a movie set. Like there's the facade, there it is. And you go behind it and it's just plywood. And there's nothing, that these windows go nowhere. There's no building here. It just looks like there's a building, and behind it is completely empty. That seems to be what Kohberger is like. It makes me wonder if he's trying to understand his thinking is so fascinating, but it makes me wonder, does he think he's just this really fascinating specimen that the jail is going to keep him protected so people can learn from him and people can study him? I don't think he realizes that, he's a specimen, but it's not going to be learned from. I
think he's full of hope that that's what it was going to be, because that's what he aspired to be. As we've said, when I think he gave up the ghost of not getting jail time or being put to death, he was hoping to be the study of Ramsland or people like her. And what he's finding out is he went in with that one expectation in a stovepipe and being notorious and infamous. And what he's finding is he's having to shift pretty rapidly out of being famous to survival. And he's struggling with survival because I mean, think about this. I talked about this the other day on something else. He was so surrounded by kindness throughout his life and the people that accommodated him that he doesn't know how to deal with the situation. So he's got his mother, who's always been there apparently as this major emotional anchor for every time he's in stress. Yeah. And we see it right after the murders, before the murder. I mean, she is that emotional anchor. And I'm not a hindsight 2020, because I know there's a lot of people that are beating themselves up from all the warning signs and red flags that are going off around them from the other student, teaching assistants, the students and everything. But think about this. So in their shoes, he was surrounded by people give him another chance, give him another chance, give him another chance, because they saw he was trying his best to be gifted, but was falling short on the social skills. So people were accommodating him. People have been accommodating him his entire life until now. He's got, talking about life reps, he's got life reps of people sucking his ass until now. And he has no idea how to deal with it.
Well, as the inmate said, the only ass they'll be eating is Kohberger's. So
that's why I said it.
Yep. and here's another complaint letter. This is the third one that we've seen now of Brian Kohberger. Let's take a look at it. This one, and this is a harder one to read.
Yeah, but I like the response.
As I continue the SPI phase. I love the terminology phase. Like it's just a step on your journey, Brian. I wish to discuss if I may be transferred to another ad seg, so another setting in the jail, in the B block. I'm going to try and read it this way because it's hard to see where they're not engaging any of the recent flooding striking. So he's talking about people are flooding his cell by letting their water drip down, which is lovely. And being subject to minute by minute verbal threats and harassment. In his unit, it's hard to read his writing. So basically, he's asking if he can be moved to another block. Right. And immediately, I wish to speak with you soon, is how he ends it. The response is legible. Mr. Kohberger, on any tier at MSI, there are sometimes disputes or disruptions to operations, such as residents flooding the J2 in a it's relatively rare occurrence, and J2 is genuinely a fairly calm, quieter tier. I do not think B Block would be any better for you. Give it some time. How do you think he's reacting to all of this and this reality?
Well, he's trying to escape.
Yeah.
He can't. He thinks the grass is going to be greener someplace else. Nope.
No.
He doesn't. He hasn't accepted the now.
Yeah.
And he's being destroyed. And it's not going to get better. He's going to be until he accepts that. He's going to keep in the struggle. And it'll be really interesting because he's as we've seen, he's very OCD. He's very, intense on his way of liking to do things, and people keep disrupting it every single day. I've never in my entire life have I smiled at someone's misfortune or someone's discomfort. And I think we all are collectively together enjoying every minute of this horrendous shell of a human being being tortured.
Yeah.
And I feel so horrendous as a human being on this planet thinking that, but this is the only time in my entire life, and hopefully it will be the only one ever, because he so deserves everything he's getting right now. I'm so glad for it.
It really is. I mean, I feel the same way. I'm like, this is insane that like I feel like joyful when I see these and I'm laughing, but it's like, well, he deserves it. I mean, the lack of humility, the lack of anything in this monster. It's like, well, sometimes that's the only way you can respond to monsters is by being a monster.
100% predictable.
Yeah,
you knew this was going to happen because of that arc of who he is.
Yeah,
and you hit it really well for everyone listening and watching us. I have, again, not a licensed clinician, and he hasn't been diagnosed with this, but if anyone's ever looking and wondering what a pure psychopath looks like, as we keep saying how empty he is, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the most extreme I've ever seen, because if you want to study him, don't study him. Study everyone he's studying, and then you'll understand him better.
Yeah.
Seriously, because that's the only thing you can do, because he is nothing without anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, and it's stunning just how monstrous this man can be. There was some warning signs, but at the end of the day, I don't fault anybody in any of their positions. What are you going to do? You can't do anything. I mean, there was the one professor who was writing to other professors saying, mark my words, literally, mark my words. If we give this guy a doctoral, if we give this guy what he wants, he will end up being an assayer, and he will be. And look what happened. Obviously, that didn't quite happen. It got even worse. He murdered people, probably with the intent to do that. But what do you do? What do you do in a world where people like this exist? I mean, I've been in meetings with people. I've had people, I've had employees, I've had all different stuff where you look back and go, yeah, that person's probably going to do this, at some point in time. But without them doing anything, you can't do anything about it. You can't turn them in. We just wait. We just wait for them to strike, no matter how dark and disturbing it is, or how dark and disturbing their actions are. If they're not crossing the line to illegal activity, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're so right. I had a few situations where we had a company or an individual's report on someone else having very similar behavior to this, and they came to us saying, "Hey, you need to do something, FBI." And I'm like, "Dude, tell me the law he broke."
Yeah.
Well, he didn't break a law, but here's all the red signs. They said, all I can do is this: fire him.
Yeah.
And don't hire him.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. And then all you can do is let the family know, here's what we're seeing. You got a problem and you better fix it, or get them counseling, get into something else, because legally there's zero you can do.
Yeah. Well, and legally,
all you can do is try to isolate them away from other people by not allowing in companies, not, it's not a shame on, because, I get it, universities, but he should never been allowed in that PhD program. Because one reason why all these higher things we do in life require recommendations and interviews is for this purpose. And it's so hard. The hardest thing I used to have to do in the FBI was on a piece of paper, I had to articulate human behavior in order to get approval to do things. I got very adept at being able to state, hey, here's what I was able to achieve from going from point A to point B on someone's life arc of development, because during this discussion, we were able to discuss X, Y, and Z. This was part of my objective to get this kind of deeper conversation going, to get access to X, Y, and Z. And so I could articulate the developmental process of the emotional connection we were trying to make to move down a path of recruiting.
Sure.
That took a long time to try to figure out, how am I going to objectively, cognitively talk about human behavior, either good or bad, to get a dial moved with someone on a check. It's got a piece of paper. It's very challenging. So I don't fault anyone for it, but I had to do it for a long period of time and then try to train other people to objectively observe human behavior, so you could actually see red flags and make decisions that can sound very subjective because it's an opinion. It's that art form of taking subjective opinion and making it objectival actions when you're dealing with human behavior. Very challenging. So that's why I don't fault them, but this is why you have to put these things in place.
I don't think a lot of
people like this.
I don't think a lot of people see it, honestly. I mean, there's certain people that are aware. I mean, I know you and me would see. There's a lot of people that would and go, there's something wrong. There's something off here. Maybe I can't put my finger on it, but not the type of person I want. But I don't know that a lot of people are able to identify it. But even beyond that, even if you do identify it, don't hire the person to begin with. If they're already there, it is easy to say, well, let's get rid of them. But there's so many protections out there for folks that are off, that, I mean, if you fire them for being off but never committing a crime, you're liable. Then you're firing someone because of their personality. But if it's not affecting the job, and that's the weird road that we go down in these sort of things with people like this.
And that's why it's really important at the onset of things. So we had a category, I don't remember what it is now. When I was in the Marine Corps, you had a category of your evaluation called professionalism. And part of professionalism was your weight, your uniform, your haircut, your scores on the physical fitness test. I mean, there's a lot of so professionalism can be a subjective word, but when actually made it actionable and objective by these measures, it could be scored. It could be measured. And so anytime that I had to counsel someone on something, like one of my Marines, this goes way back when for me, I actually had to articulate, all right, here's the standard at Go. The standard is you must maintain a professional relationship with your recruits, with other drill instructors, with officers, and all these things. And so what would happen is, if I saw a behavior that could be subjectively deemed inappropriate, say I heard someone making a comment, an inappropriate comment towards another drill instructor, male or female, my job was then to, hey, Staff Sergeant, come over here. Here's what I observed, and I write down this. This is an unacceptable behavior of that comment that I observed you making firsthand, not hearsay, and I'm deeming this unprofessional. I'm writing it down on this piece of paper. I need you to sign this as well, and you acknowledge that this is unacceptable behavior for professionalism when regarding other Marines. Now, here's what we're going to do. I have identified this. You now know the behavior to avoid. If I don't see this behavior again in the next 4 weeks, I'm going to hand you this paper back, and it's all yours. No harm, no foul. Now, if I do see a behavior that mirrors or is exactly like that, where it's going to be a different conversation, now we're going to talk about moving you out and moving you on. So this is how leadership has to take the energy and bandwidth to articulate behaviors that are red flags, address them according to a standard that's been set at the very beginning, and not be afraid. And it's not confrontational conversations. It's a conversation about their behavior and how their behavior is incongruent with the standard that we set. And if you don't do that early on, you get into problems like this.
Yeah. Seems like we used to have a lot more of that going on where with standards.
It takes courage.
Yeah. It takes courage. It takes having standards. And I don't know if it's just lack of standards or what it is, or lack of reps in people facing icky situations that make them uncomfortable. Where the leadership, look, if you're in leadership, you're going to be in uncomfortable situations. That's why you're the leader.
Right.
It's part of the job. But I feel so many times we see leaders that, you want to lead by example. You don't necessarily need to lead by fear, but sometimes if you have someone out there that's this out there that you're literally saying, I think he's going to SA somebody, I would think there's some actionable options that might be on the table for you. It looks like obviously they did explore it. They did get rid of him. So things did take place. Things did go down. But he was able to go down a path for quite a while. I mean, everybody could see it. His parents, could see he was off. His friends saw it. I mean, this guy he was a little tornado that went through life and was able to go as far as he did. And I don't know, it feels like there's so many folks out there like this that just seem like they're one step away from being a Kohberger. Thankfully, we don't see it that frequently, but I feel like we live in a world where there's so much protection on not offending someone for their behavior, for their choices, that it's just kind of a free-for-all in so many ways. And people don't necessarily end up killing, others, but they make life a living hell for others who are just trying to do their jobs and get through life. And we don't do a whole lot to kick them to the curb and go, just go figure something else out that's more in your wheelhouse, because this is not.
Yeah, and I think the challenge that people will have with this, because again, I'm going to give the people around him a lot of credit for being very kind people. Yeah. They were very kind to him. And because the reason why this is a challenge is because people think these are challenging conversations, or I'm going to be an ass, or I'm going to have to be the hammer. No. All you're doing is making observations on their behavior. Yeah. And all you're doing is this is how we have behavior conversations. Because if you're given an opinion, here's the difference, Tony. Kohberger, I think what you said is inappropriate. That's an opinion. We can argue back and forth, as opposed to Kohberger, here's the behavior you just said. Here's what you just did. Here's how that is incongruent with what the standard is. Here's what the effect this statement had on the people around you. And that is not professional in the workplace. And so here's your choice. Here's your choices. You can stop that behavior now and it'll be written off and we'll keep a file over here. Or if you continue that behavior, here's the consequence of this. It's completely up to you. Yeah. This is not my opinion. This is your behavior and the cause and effect of what you're doing according to this standard that's been set down by the university. Yeah. You're eliminating the other human aspect that they can argue with and say, there's no argue. That's your opinion. Like, it's not my opinion. This is how this is deviating. Yes. And it's black and white. This is how. Yeah. And I apologize because that's how I had to learn how to have behavior conversations where it wasn't an opinion, it's an observation. And when observations are observed by multiple people and they have an effect on those individuals, well, that becomes a trend. That becomes an arc of your behavior and the impact on others. And so now it just comes down to that is incongruent with what we expect in this workplace. You can make a choice about what you want to do about it. And I'm here to tell you the cause and effect of your choices. I like that. I'm going to take that into parenting a little bit more too. Yes. There's a lot of, that's your opinion. That no, it's not. This is just life. This is how this works. No. Let me tell you something, honey. Let's sit down and let's read this book together. Oh, what a beautiful segue.
Robin Dreek, as always, thank you so much for joining us. Unbreakable Alliances is his latest book. You can get it wherever books are sold. Do check that out. As always, thank you for being here.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast.